It was an Oscar goldmine. Starting in 1993, Miramax Films was nominated for Best Picture 11 years in a row. But behind the scenes, it was a very different story. Author Ken Auletta has documented the fall of Miramax's Harvey Weinstein, and he tells Lesley Stahl all about it.
The disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is serving a 23-year prison sentence for rape and other acts of sexual assault, crimes first exposed in the New York Times. Journalist Ken Auletta tried to break that story in 2002 while working on a profile of Weinstein for the New Yorker magazine.
I described his brutal behavior verbally and physically in terms of fistfights and wrestling matches with people. But I couldn't nail him on what I believed he was also guilty of, which is abusing women sexually. I couldn't get the women to talk.
Would you say that catching Harvey Weinstein became an obsession with you?
I had a semi-obsession. I wanted to expose the guy, sure.
Semi-obsession. His semi-obsession grew even after the guy was convicted. Now he's written a biography in which he searches for Weinstein's rosebud. How and why did one of the most respected Academy Award winners and head of Miramax Films become a reviled sex offender? So your book is like a PET scan of his psyche.
So he's a human being with many dimensions. One dimension is that he's a violent, often vile man who abused people. Another dimension of Harvey Weinstein is a talented filmmaker.
I mean, there are spectacular movies. There's Water for Chocolate, there's Enchanted April, Shakespeare in Love.
I heard you were a poet.
I mean, they're just so sensitive, and some of them are sweet. And I wonder how someone who could do those movies could at the same time be a monster.
I couldn't figure it out, but if you rape and abuse over 100 women.
Over 100 women?
Since October of 2017, more than 100 women have come forward to claim that he physically abused them.
I wonder if you figured out whether something happened in his childhood.
What you saw in Harvey's home is Miriam Weinstein, the mother, yelled all the time. Harvey, you're fat. Harvey, stop eating that. Harvey, what are you doing? And that yelling was carried over into Miramax and Harvey's career.
Weinstein addressed his own violent temper tantrums in 2002 during 12 hours of taped interviews with Auletta. He said he wanted to change.
I don't want to fight with anybody. I have no desire anymore. I feel like I fought all my fights. I still get, some things still outrage me, but I'm trying to bite my lip, whatever they do.
He could not change who he was.
No, of course not.
In many ways, Harvey was out of control.
So you're sitting across from him. Did you feel intimidated?
No. And the questions got a little testy, and I confronted him about the women rumors and his violent temper and stuff. He suddenly got up off his chair. I was seated at a small conference table. He got off his chair and he loomed over me, standing up, and he clenched his fists. And so as soon as I stood up and we're face to face, Harvey did something totally surprising. He started to cry.
What?
He just started to cry and just bawl.
Really crying?
Really cry, very seriously.
Through those tears, he denied assaulting his one-time assistant, Rowena Chiu, calling their relationship, as he would with others, consensual. The Chiu accusation is one he has consistently denied. Now, here's something you've said. There was a whole system at Miramax that propped Harvey up and enabled him to commit his sexual assaults.
I think for a lot of people at Miramax who obviously saw Harvey's work and lifestyle on a daily basis, I think that they would have preferred to think as Harvey of someone who had multiple affairs, who didn't behave very well, but they didn't want to think of themselves as employed by a serial rapist.
But she says she was warned about being alone with him.
We were told things like, wear 2 jackets, wear 2 pairs of tights if you need to, never sit on the same sofa as Harvey. If he invites you to sit next to him, sit opposite him.
Despite those precautions, Chiu says Weinstein tried to rape her at the 1998 Venice Film Festival, and she narrowly escaped.
Harvey typically is naked in his hotel room, or at least only semi-clad. Obviously, we are not. We're at work.
Well, wait a minute. Rowena, you're saying that like it's normal. You're saying he got naked. I'm thinking to myself, he got naked?
In the film industry, Harvey was not my first encounter with someone who tried to be naked in the office.
Whoa. And then what? He just lunged? He attacked you?
So I think it is not so much of a lunging as a process of pressure over a number of hours. So you're in a room with someone who's known for his anger. You can't really run screaming from the room because you're not sure what he'll do. And he probably weighs 3 or 4 times what I weigh. So there's a situation where I'm trying to extricate myself from the room without making him angry. Ultimately, of course, there is a physical element to it where he's much bigger than me, and at some point he's holding me down to a bed and I'm trying to wriggle away.
A lot of people in Hollywood knew what was going on with Harvey as well. I think you call it a culture of silence.
People who know or should have known that someone is doing actually criminal acts and keep silent.
And that's a broad group of people sometimes.
It's a very broad group of people. Some people who worked at Miramax and the Weinstein Company, some people who are agents in Hollywood, some people who are studio executives, some people who are actors and actresses. So much of it is just simple conformity. You don't want to come out and accuse your colleague.
You don't want to tattle.
You don't want to be a rat.
Yeah.
Now behind bars, Weinstein faces another criminal trial this fall in Los Angeles on nearly a dozen sex crime charges to which he has pleaded not guilty.
Do you think that Harvey has any remorse?
So I think it's not true remorse until he actually sees that he is deserving of what has happened to him. He is deserving of this level of public censure and also of a prison sentence.
Here's a guy with 4 assistants. He had a car that had screens, flipped down screens. He could watch movies and TV shows of his. And here he is today, eating, baked beans.
Knowing he will never get out.
Knowing he'll never get out. And he should know that he deserves to be in prison. And I don't think he does.